We live in a world where most people only see the surface, the physical, the tangible, the logical. But there's a deeper architecture to existence that many never touch, not because they can't, but because they've never been told it exists. It's like being handed a map with only one city marked, while the entire universe is waiting just beyond the edges. And the truth is, you weren't born to be stuck in just one layer of reality. You were born with access to all of them. Your soul has always known this. It has always whispered that there's more to life than what can be measured. That whisper, that's the beginning of dimensional consciousness, the awakening to the real laws that govern not just this world, but every plane of existence. Now, what I'm about to share with you isn't just spiritual theory. These are the 7 spiritual powers that actually function across dimensions. That means they don't care what realm you're in, physical, astral, etheric, dream time, void, they work. They always work, because they're not tied to form. They're rooted in truth, and truth transcends dimension. But here's the thing, these powers are not tricks, they're not hacks. They're not something you can fake or force. They're frequencies, forces. They respond only to authenticity, to alignment, to embodiment. You don't use them, you become them. The first spiritual power is pure intent. Intent is not thought, it's not desire, it's not willpower. It's deeper than all of that. Intent is the original command of the soul. It's the pulse beneath your purpose. It's the silent roar that tells the universe, this is my direction. And because it comes from your core, it echoes through all dimensions simultaneously. You could be in a dream, in meditation, in a near-death experience, or walking down the street. If your intent is pure, it moves reality. It shifts outcomes. It bends timelines. But here's the painful part. Most people don't know what their true intent is. They confuse it with ego, with fear, with programming. So they send out noise, not signal. And the universe doesn't respond to noise. It responds to clarity. Ask yourself, what is the intent behind your actions, your relationships, your goals? If you stripped away fear and pride, what would remain? That is where your power begins. That is where you become multidimensional. The second spiritual power that crosses all realms is radical presence. Now, this one is misunderstood. People think presence is just about being mindful, being in the now. But true presence is dimensional anchoring. It means your soul fully occupies the moment. Your body, your energy, your awareness are all here. Now, undivided. Presence isn't passive. It's an act of spiritual war in a world built to distract you. And here's the secret. In every dimension, presence is power. In dreams, if you become fully present, you gain lucidity. In the astral, presence protects you. In the physical, presence attracts synchronicity. When you're truly present, you collapse the illusion of separation. You become the bridge between realms. People feel it. They don't even know why, but they sense that something about you is different. You're not scattered like the rest of the world. You're rooted. And that rooting makes you magnetic. But presence requires sacrifice. You have to let go of the story you're telling in your head. You have to stop performing. You have to return to stillness. And most people are terrified of stillness because when it gets quiet, the soul starts to speak. And the soul does not lie. The third spiritual power is energetic integrity. This one is massive because energy is the true language of the multiverse. Words don't mean much across dimensions. But your energy? It speaks louder than anything. It tells the truth whether you want it to or not. And energetic integrity means that your inner frequency matches your outer expression. There's no split, no pretending, no manipulation. When you have energetic integrity, every realm respects you, even the ones you can't see. Spirits, guides, ancestors, even shadow forces, they know when someone's energy is clean, aligned, and undivided. And they respond accordingly. But this kind of integrity is rare because it requires you to stop leaking, stop performing, Stop shape-shifting just to be accepted. It demands that you become one whole self, no matter who's watching. And here's the kicker. When you reach that level of integrity, the dimensional veil begins to thin. You start sensing things others can't, seeing signs others miss, because the universe knows it can trust you. You're not wearing a mask, you're real. And reality opens up to the real. Let me ask you something that may shake your foundation. Where are you still pretending, even just a little? And what would happen if you stopped? That's the door. That's the gate to dimensional access. Because the more honest you are with yourself, the more access you gain to the deeper layers of all existence. The fourth spiritual power is emotional alchemy. This one is often overlooked, and yet it's one of the most potent. Emotions exist in every dimension. They're not just human. They're energetic signatures. And if you know how to move through them consciously, you can transmute density into clarity, fear into power, grief into wisdom. Emotional alchemy means you're not afraid to feel. You don't suppress. You don't bypass. You transform. And that transformation echoes across all timelines. That's why healing in this life can ripple into past lives or future ones. It's not poetic, it's physics. You are an energetic node in a vast web. When you shift your frequency through emotional mastery, you shift the entire web. But here's the challenge. Most people are emotionally illiterate. They think feeling is weakness, or they drown in their emotions without ever integrating them. True alchemy requires sacred space, deep courage, and radical self-awareness. You have to sit with the rage, the grief, the shame, and listen to what it's teaching you. Because every emotion is a message. And when you learn the language, you become a master of internal transformation. And once you can do that, no dimension can trap you. There are still 3 more spiritual powers that work across all realms, but before we unlock them, ask yourself this: which of these powers have I cultivated? Which have I ignored? And what would my life look like if I embodied all of them, fully, without compromise?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
What if I told you that your soul is not just a passenger in this life, but an architect that spans across realms? That you, sitting right there, carrying your pain, your questions, your dreams, are already woven into dimensions you've never consciously touched. Most people live like they're stuck in one room of an infinite mansion, never realizing there are entire wings, staircases, hidden doors, and portals waiting to be opened. But to move through them, to travel through them with grace and power, you need something more than belief. You need to activate the remaining spiritual codes that echo across all dimensions. You need to remember, the 5th spiritual power is authentic vibration. This is not about having a high vibe or pretending to be positive all the time. That's spiritual performance. What I'm talking about is raw frequency, the vibration that rises when you are fully yourself, fully embodied, fully aligned with your unique soul signal. Every soul has a signature, like a spiritual fingerprint. When you express that signature without distortion, without dilution, it harmonizes with the fabric of the multiverse. That vibration reaches realms you can't physically enter. It speaks to beings you've never met. It influences timelines you haven't walked yet. But most people never discover this power because they're too busy mimicking others. They follow trends, gurus, doctrines, and in doing so, they lose their signal. You were not meant to be a copy. You came here to sound your note, to be so deeply yourself that the universe has no choice but to respond. That's how miracles happen. Not from force, but from resonance. When your inner truth meets the outer field with perfect honesty, doors open, energies shift, people show up. But this can only happen if you're willing to stop pretending, if you're willing to risk being misunderstood in order to be real. So ask yourself, what parts of you are still performing? And what would happen if you let your true frequency rise, even if it makes people uncomfortable? The 6th power is dimensional compassion. This is not ordinary kindness. This is not smiling at strangers or saying nice things. This is compassion that transcends ego and form. It's the ability to see another being, not just their personality or their pain, but their essence. It's the knowing that behind every wounded action is an ancient soul trying to remember itself. It's the wisdom to respond to cruelty with clarity instead of retaliation. It's the ability to hold space for paradox, knowing a person can be both broken and divine, lost and powerful, asleep and sacred all at once. Here's why this matters across dimensions. Compassion is the key that unlocks spiritual alliances. Beings in higher realms do not respond to manipulation or force. They respond to heart coherence. When your compassion is real, when it's not performative, not conditional, it sends a signal through the astral grids. It tells the universe, this one is ready to be entrusted with deeper truths, and doors that were sealed shut for lifetimes begin to open. It's not about being soft, it's about being pure. Purity doesn't mean perfection. It means presence without judgment. It means seeing through the illusions of form to the eternal soul beneath. And that vision, that's what makes you a bridge between worlds. Now we come to the seventh and final power, the one that ties all the others together, sovereign creation. This is the power that frightens even the most advanced beings, because it means you are no longer a product of your past, you are the creator of reality itself. Sovereign creation isn't manifestation in the way it's often taught. This isn't about vision boards or forced affirmations. This is about aligning so deeply with your soul blueprint that reality bends to you. Why? Because when your intent, presence, integrity, emotion, vibration, and compassion are all aligned, you begin to move as a source point, not just a participant. Sovereign creators don't chase outcomes. They generate fields. They don't beg the universe. They partner with it. They speak, and the realm responds not because of ego, but because of alignment. But here's the sacred challenge. Sovereign creation requires full responsibility. You cannot blame the world for your reality once you awaken to your own power. You must own your shadows, your choices, your energy. And that level of ownership, it's rare, because it demands that you stop waiting to be rescued and instead rise as the rescuer you've been waiting for. So I ask you, as someone who has walked through pain, doubt, awakening, and fire, what would your life look like if you stopped asking for permission and started creating from your soul's authority? What would you build, not just here, but across every realm, if you claimed your place as a sovereign, multidimensional being? You now know all 7 spiritual powers that work across every dimension. But knowing is not enough. You must live them. You must embody them. Knowing the 7 spiritual powers is like being handed the keys to a cosmic vehicle, but keys alone don't mean you can drive. The universe does not operate on entitlement. It operates on resonance. It watches not only what you say, but how you live. It doesn't respond to hollow declarations of awakening, it responds to embodied truth. And when you begin to hold these powers, when you carry intent like a sword, presence like a shield, integrity like a compass, the universe begins to test you. Not to punish you, but to prepare you. Because the moment you say, I'm ready to live as a multiversal being, you're making a vow that echoes beyond this realm. And the cosmos listens. The test comes in silence, in subtle moments. Not as thunder or lightning, but as tension in relationships, as confusion in your path, as unexpected resistance. These are not signs that you failed, they are signs that the higher dimensions want to see what you do when you're squeezed. Will you collapse back into your conditioning, or will you rise into your knowing? Because it's easy to talk about spiritual power when life is smooth. But the real initiation happens in chaos, when your old self begs to return to comfort and your new self whispers, stay the course. This is the dimensional threshold, and most never cross it. Let me ask you something dangerous. What parts of you only act spiritual when it's convenient? What happens when your ego is challenged? When your timeline doesn't unfold the way you planned? Do you still hold presence? Are you still in integrity? Do you still lead with compassion, or does your fear take the wheel again? These are not moral questions. They are dimensional calibrations. You cannot fake your way into higher realms. You must match their frequency. The first layer of the test is your relationship to discomfort. Discomfort is the universal fire. It burns away the non-essential. Across all dimensions, discomfort is used to refine, to sharpen, to reveal. If you avoid it, you delay your evolution. If you embrace it, you accelerate your expansion. Think of monks who sit in silence for years, or mystics who fast in the desert, or even you facing your old wounds with open eyes. These are not acts of suffering. They are acts of alchemy. They say to the universe, I am willing to burn what I am not, to become what I truly am. And that signal is unmistakable. The second layer of the test is temptation to distort your power. As you grow, you will be offered shortcuts, opportunities to use your gifts for ego, control, or validation. Maybe it's the temptation to manipulate others with your insight. Maybe it's the subtle addiction to being seen as awakened. Maybe it's the desire to bypass your humanity and float in spiritual superiority. But every time you use your power in a way that violates your soul's code, you fracture your access. You close the very doors you're trying to open. This is why so many gifted souls lose their way. They awaken to power, but not to responsibility. And power without responsibility is not evolution, it's collapse. The third layer of the test is solitude. True spiritual authority cannot be built in noise. It is forged in silence. There will be a time when the universe pulls you back, isolates you, strips away your distractions, so that you can hear yourself again. You may lose relationships. Opportunities may vanish. But this is not punishment. This is purification. You are being emptied so that you can be filled with truth. The loneliness you feel in that space is sacred. Do not run from it. Let it carve you open. Let it show you that your soul is enough, that you do not need applause to be real, that you do not need validation to exist. That is when the universe knows. This one is ready. And finally, the fourth layer of the test is consistency. Can you hold the frequency you've claimed when no one is watching, when the high wears off, when the ceremony ends, when the retreat is over, when the wind isn't at your back? This is where most fall, because they treat awakening like a moment, not a lifestyle. But dimensions don't open for moments. They open for patterns. They open for souls who live the truth daily, not just when it's trending. And that consistency, it's the deepest form of devotion. It says, even when I feel nothing, I am still aligned. Even when I see no proof, I am still committed. This is the test. Not a test you pass once, but a living initiation that deepens with every breath. And if you're hearing these words, you're already in it. The question is, will you stay in integrity when no one claps? Will you hold presence when everything falls away? Will you trust your vibration when the world misunderstands you? Because the universe doesn't need more people who talk about dimensions. It needs those who walk between them, with grace, with truth, with power that comes not from domination but from devotion. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when the path no longer leads outward, but inward and through. It is the moment when your identity, your desires, even your beliefs begin to dissolve, and what remains isn't a person, it's a presence. A living current, something deeper than thought, older than time. When you reach this threshold, you are no longer just a seeker. You are becoming the bridge, not between ideas or philosophies, but between worlds. This is the final gate, and unlike the others, this one cannot be opened by effort. It opens through surrender. Not the kind of surrender that means giving up, but the kind that means giving in to truth, to love, to essence. Because when you become the bridge, you don't just access dimensions, you carry them. You become a portal in human form, a walking intersection of spirit and matter, of silence and sound, of the seen and the unseen. People feel it when you enter a room. Animals respond to it. Children gaze longer. The sick feel calmer. Not because you say anything, but because you are something. Something unseen. Something whole. But how do you live in that state, in this world? How do you remain anchored in multiple dimensions while still paying bills, answering emails, holding hands with grief, and laughing at your own mistakes? The answer is not perfection. It is integration. You don't escape this world to be spiritual. You infuse it. You bring your presence into every mundane moment until nothing is mundane anymore. Washing dishes becomes a prayer. Walking becomes a ritual. Silence becomes a sermon. That is how the bridge lives not above life, but within it. And here's the paradox. The more you live as the bridge, the less you need to explain it. You stop trying to convince others of your awakening. You no longer chase validation. Your presence becomes your teaching. Your frequency becomes your offering. You become a tuning fork for truth, and those who are ready will harmonize. Those who aren't will drift away. And you'll let them go not from arrogance, but from understanding. Because the bridge doesn't pull others across. It stands strong until they're ready to walk. You begin to see time differently. You stop fearing death. You stop clinging to stories. You understand that every loss is preparation, every delay is refinement, and every challenge is an invitation to deepen your embodiment. You even stop needing experiences to prove your growth. You simply are. And in that stillness, new dimensions open, ones you never even knew existed. Some are external, yes. You may begin to see energies, connect with ancient beings, receive downloads in dreams. But the most powerful dimensions are the inner ones. Realms of insight, peace, and love that have no language, no form, but shape your every step. And so the question becomes, what kind of bridge will you be? Will you be a bridge that others can walk across to remember who they are? Will you be a bridge that holds strong in storms, that doesn't collapse under projection or doubt? Will you be a bridge that trusts the timing of every soul, even when they turn away? Because this is the calling now, not to just awaken, but to embody, not to just know, but to live, not to escape the world, but to transform it not through force, but through frequency. Through your breath, your choices, your stillness, your love. You are no longer just walking the path. You are the path. And every step you take, every truth you speak, every wound you heal becomes part of the map for others to follow. You are not here to fit in. You are not here to be understood. You are here to become the bridge between worlds, and by doing so, remind the world that it was never truly separate to begin with. And that is how we ascend, together, in presence, in power, in peace.